You wake up on a Tuesday morning and realize the promise is already broken. You swore you were going to train, and you hit snooze instead. Most of us have been taught exactly what to do next. We get brutal. We attack our own character, call ourselves weak or lazy, and label that cruelty as holding a high standard. That internal hostility works, briefly, but it's a high-friction strategy that often leaves you stalled out and exhausted long before you reach your goal. Back in 1971, psychologist Helen Block Lewis started mapping out why this approach misfires so consistently. She drew a sharp line between two emotions we usually treat as identical, shame and guilt. The distinction comes down to the sentence that lands in your head. Guilt keeps the error on the outside, saying, "I did a bad thing." Shame swallows the error entirely, saying, "I am a bad thing." We reach for that second option, thinking it builds armor. In reality, it builds a psychological cage that quietly programs us to fail again. Over the last few decades, behavioral scientists have tracked exactly how those two internal sentences play out in the real world. Clinical researcher Jana Patak-Peckham looked at drinking habits and found a closed loop. When someone believes they are inherently flawed, that thought is intolerable. Shame hands them a wound too painful to sit with, and then offers the bottle as the anesthetic to quiet it down. You see the same self-sabotage in athletes. Researchers observed competitors intentionally sabotaging their own preparation, so a loss could never prove they were worthless. The clearest test of this dynamic happened behind bars. Psychologist June Tangney and her team followed a large group of inmates upon release to measure how their primary emotion affected their future. This chart shows Tangney's recidivism data. There's a high spike in reoffending for the shame-prone group. But the guilt-prone group shows the opposite. Guilt frames the mistake as a behavior, leaving a door open for correction. That instinct is deeply wired into us. When researchers study 2-year-olds who break a toy, the ones experiencing guilt immediately try to fix it, while the ones feeling shame avoid eye contact and hide the pieces. Targeting your identity instead of the specific mistake removes your capacity to change. It transforms a moment of self-discipline into an engine for relapse. Long before clinical psychology, Stoic philosophers recognized this trap and built deliberate practices to escape it. Even Emperor Marcus Aurelius woke up on certain mornings feeling like a fraud. To navigate that, he practiced a strict mental discipline. He explicitly separated his wrongful acts from his core self, deciding that when he did wrong, only the act itself required correction, not the man. Epictetus pushed this logic further. If someone told him he was being spoken badly of, he wouldn't defend himself. He would reply that the critic clearly didn't know his other faults, or they would have listed those too. That is a man whose worth is completely isolated from his observable mistakes. When your identity is not the thing standing trial, you can finally afford to judge your actions with honesty in the daylight. So how do you actually make the switch? When you're standing in the kitchen at 6 in the morning with a broken promise in your hands, how do you drop the cage and pick up the forge? It starts by listening to your own internal dialogue for a single word, am. Statements like, "I am lazy," or "I am undisciplined." You have to ruthlessly drag that am back to a did. You aren't an undisciplined failure. You skipped the Tuesday workout. That keeps the error specific, small, and entirely external. Once the error is external, you can execute what psychologists call real repair. And be careful. Drafting a massive, dramatic 5-year plan at midnight to prove you have worth is not repair. That is just shame wearing a disguise. But true repair is quiet and unglamorous. It's the absolute smallest physical action you can take to contradict the label your brain just tried to apply. A single kept promise, one push-up, pouring a glass of water instead of a drink. You are trying to install the voice of a great coach in your head. A good coach is entirely unflinching about your error, but remains loyal to your inherent worth as a person. An engine built on fear and self-hatred stalls the moment the fear fades. One built on guilt-driven corrections is different. It is powered by kept words on unremarkable Tuesdays, making it reliable long after the initial motivation is gone. You will stand at that fork again tomorrow morning. When you do, you have a choice to make. Be honest about the deed, spare the man, and keep one small promise.